The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports from my hospitality portfolio in my corner office on the 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower. Outside my floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan stretched endlessly beneath a crisp October sky, and I could see three of my properties from this vantage point: the Grand Meridian Hotel, the Pinnacle Event Center, and the historic Ashford Manor, which I'd restored to its former glory as the city's most exclusive wedding venue. "Isabella, thank God you picked up." My sister Charlotte's voice rang through my phone with that familiar tone of barely contained excitement mixed with underlying stress. "I have the most incredible news about the wedding." I set down my Mont Blanc pen and gave her my full attention. "What's going on, Charlotte? You sound positively electric." "Marcus and I just secured the most amazing venue for our reception. The Ashford Manor. Can you believe it? The waiting list is normally 3 years, but they had a last-minute cancellation and we snatched it up immediately." My stomach tightened slightly, though I kept my voice neutral. The Ashford Manor was indeed the crown jewel of my venue collection, but more importantly, it was the same location where our grandmother's wedding reception had been held 60 years ago. Charlotte had always dreamed of getting married there, ever since we were little girls looking through Grandma's wedding album. "That's wonderful, Charlotte. Grandma would be so happy knowing you're getting married in the same place she did." "I know, right? It's like a fairy tale come true. The ceremony will be at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and then everyone will move to Ashford Manor for the reception." Marcus's family is absolutely beside themselves with excitement. "When is the wedding again?" "December 15th. I know it's only 8 weeks away, but Marcus got that promotion to senior partner at his law firm, so we decided not to wait until next year. Plus, having it in December means we'll have all those gorgeous Christmas decorations as our backdrop." I pulled up my calendar, noting that December 15th was indeed available at Ashford Manor. As the owner, I made sure to keep certain dates flexible for family emergencies or special requests, though Charlotte had no idea about my involvement in her venue selection. "That sounds absolutely magical, Charlotte. How many guests are you expecting?" 250, maybe 300 if Marcus's extended family all shows up. It's going to be the event of the season, Isabella. Everyone who matters in New York society will be there." I could hear the pride and anticipation in her voice, but there was something else too, a subtle undertone that I'd learned to recognize over the years. "And the guest list? Have you finalized who's invited?" There was a brief pause before Charlotte continued, and I immediately knew what was coming. "Well, that's actually something I wanted to discuss with you. Marcus and I have been talking and we've decided to keep the wedding relatively intimate. You know, just immediate family and our closest friends." "I understand. What does that mean exactly?" Another pause, longer this time. "Isabella, I hope you won't take this personally, but we've decided not to invite you to the ceremony or reception." The words hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd sensed they were coming. "Not invite me? Charlotte, I'm your sister. I know and I love you, but let's be realistic here. This is going to be a very upscale event. Marcus's colleagues, my friends from the charity board, Mom and Dad's business associates. These are people with serious money and social standing. And you work at that little bookstore in Brooklyn, Isabella. You drive a Honda Civic that's probably older than some of Marcus's interns. You live in a studio apartment and shop at thrift stores. I just don't think you'd be comfortable around our crowd." I felt my jaw clench, but I kept my voice steady. "So you're not inviting me because I'm not wealthy enough?" "It's not about wealth exactly," Charlotte said quickly, though her tone suggested it was precisely about wealth. "It's about fitting in. The reception alone costs $40,000. That's more than you make in an entire year. I just don't want you to feel out of place or embarrassed. Charlotte, you're my only sister. We grew up in the same house, went to the same schools. That was a long time ago, Isabella. We're different people now with different lifestyles. Marcus and I are building something important together. This wedding is about our future and we need to surround ourselves with people who understand our world." I stood up and walked to my window, looking down at the bustling streets 42 floors below. "What does Mom think about this decision?" "Mom understands completely. She agrees that you'd probably be more comfortable not attending. Dad's a little sentimental about it, but he'll come around." "And what about Grandma's engagement ring? The one she left specifically for your wedding?" "Oh, that's different. You're still family, Isabella. You'll give me the ring, of course. That's about honoring Grandma's memory, not about the social aspects of the wedding. The casual entitlement in her voice was staggering. Charlotte expected me to hand over our grandmother's priceless family heirloom while being excluded from the celebration where it would be worn. I see. So I'm family enough to provide the ring, but not family enough to witness you wearing it. Don't be dramatic, Isabella. This is just how these things work in our circles now. You can see all the photos afterward and we'll have a nice family dinner sometime to celebrate. Your circles. Yes, my circles. Marcus is a senior partner at Whitmore Davidson and Associates. I'm on the board of 3 different charities. We summer in the Hamptons and winter in Aspen. That's our reality now. I walked back to my desk and pulled up the Ashford Manor booking system on my computer. Charlotte's wedding was indeed scheduled for December 15th, with a deposit of $25,000 already paid. Charlotte, can I ask you something honestly? Of course. Do you actually believe I can't afford your wedding venue, or are you just using that as an excuse? She laughed and the sound was sharp and dismissive. Isabella, be serious. You can't even afford your own wedding venue, let alone mine. The Ashford Manor costs $40,000 just for the venue rental, not including catering, flowers, or anything else. That's more money than you see in 2 years. And you're certain I can't afford it? Please. You work retail at a bookstore. Your entire annual salary probably wouldn't cover the wine bill for our reception. I opened another window on my computer and pulled up my personal financial portfolio. The numbers were substantial: $867 million across various investments, properties, and business holdings. My bookstore, Pages and Prose, was indeed my daily occupation, but it was also just one small part of a much larger business empire that I'd built over the past decade. Charlotte, what if I told you that you're wrong about my financial situation? Then I'd say you're delusional or lying. Isabella, I've seen your apartment. I've seen your car. I know what bookstore employees make because I looked it up. You're living paycheck to paycheck. What if I told you that I own the bookstore plus the entire building it's in plus 12 other buildings in that neighborhood? She laughed again, longer this time. Then I'd recommend therapy because you're having fantasies about being wealthy. Isabella, this is exactly why you can't come to the wedding. You don't understand the difference between reality and wishful thinking. I pulled up the property management system for my venue portfolio and scrolled to the Ashford Manor account. With a few keystrokes, I could cancel Charlotte's booking immediately, but I decided to test something first. Charlotte, hypothetically, what would you do if the Ashford Manor suddenly became unavailable for your wedding? That's impossible. We have a signed contract and we've paid the deposit. Besides, where else would we go on such short notice? Every decent venue in the city is booked years in advance. But hypothetically, I'd probably have a nervous breakdown. Isabella, the Ashford Manor is perfect. It's where Grandma got married, it's prestigious enough for Marcus's family, and I've already sent save the dates with the venue's name on them. If something happened to that booking, I honestly don't know what I'd do. I minimized the property management window and opened my contact list instead. Charlotte, I want you to know that I love you, and I want your wedding to be everything you've dreamed of. I love you too, Isabella. I hope you understand that this decision isn't personal. I understand completely. It's about surrounding yourself with people who understand your world. Exactly. You get it. I do get it. And Charlotte. Yes. You might want to check your voicemails in about 10 minutes. What do you mean? I hung up the phone and immediately dialed another number. Marcus Rodriguez speaking, answered my property manager for the Meridian Hospitality Group. Marcus, it's Isabella. I need you to cancel a wedding booking immediately. Of course, Ms. Chin. Which property and what date? Ashford Manor, December 15th. The Morrison wedding. The Morrison booking? That's a substantial deposit to forfeit. Is there a specific reason for the cancellation? Family conflict. Please make sure that all related services are cancelled as well. Catering, floral arrangements, photography packages, everything. Understood. Should I note a reason for our records? Irreconcilable differences regarding guest list policies. I'll take care of it immediately. Should I also flag the Morrison name to prevent future bookings? I paused, considering. For now, yes. We'll reassess later depending on how they handle this news. Very good, Ms. Chin. The cancellation will be processed within the hour, and they'll receive notification by phone and email. I hung up and returned to my quarterly reports, though I found it difficult to concentrate. My phone remained silent for exactly 11 minutes before it started ringing. Isabella. Charlotte's voice was hysterical. Something terrible has happened. What's wrong? The Ashford Manor just called and cancelled our wedding. They said there was a scheduling conflict and they have to refund our deposit. Isabella, what am I going to do? The wedding is 8 weeks away. That's awful, Charlotte. Did they give you any other details? They said something about new management policies and guest list requirements, but they wouldn't explain what that meant. Isabella, I'm panicking. Every other decent venue in the city is booked solid. I opened my venue portfolio again and scrolled through the available properties. I own 17 different event spaces throughout New York, ranging from intimate garden settings to grand ballrooms. Have you considered looking outside Manhattan? Sometimes the outer boroughs have hidden gems. Marcus will never agree to Brooklyn or Queens. His family would be mortified. Isabella, we need somewhere prestigious, somewhere that makes a statement. What about the Grand Meridian Hotel? I heard they have a beautiful ballroom. The Grand Meridian? Isabella, that's even more exclusive than Ashford Manor. Their waiting list is legendary, and they charge $60,000 just for the venue rental. But it might be worth checking. Sometimes they have last-minute availability. I suppose I could call, but I'm not optimistic. Isabella, I'm starting to think this is some kind of sign. Maybe we should postpone the wedding until next year. Don't give up yet, Charlotte. Let me make some phone calls and see what I can find out. Isabella, no offense, but what connections could you possibly have in the high-end wedding venue business? You'd be surprised. I meet a lot of people through the bookstore. Authors, publishers, event planners. Let me reach out to my network. I guess it couldn't hurt, but please don't embarrass me by calling places we obviously can't afford. After Charlotte hung up, I sat in my office for several minutes, processing the conversation. My sister had just asked for my help while simultaneously insulting my ability to provide it. She'd excluded me from her wedding because of assumptions about my social status, then immediately turned to me for assistance when her plans fell apart. I pulled up Charlotte's contact information in my system and scrolled through her booking history. Interestingly, she tried to book 3 of my other venues over the past year. The Pinnacle Event Center for her engagement party, the Riverside Garden for a charity luncheon, and the Metropolitan Club for Marcus's birthday celebration. Each time she'd been told the venues were unavailable, not because they were actually booked, but because I'd specifically flagged her requests for my personal review. My phone buzzed with a text message from Charlotte, called Grand Meridian. They're fully booked through 2026. Also tried Plaza Hotel, St. Regis and Four Seasons. Nothing available. I'm starting to panic. I typed back, don't panic. I'm working on something. The truth was I could solve Charlotte's problem with a single phone call. I own not just the Ashford Manor, but several venues that would be perfect for her December wedding. The question was whether I wanted to help someone who'd just excluded me from her life because she thought I wasn't successful enough. My assistant knocked on my office door and entered with an afternoon coffee. Miss Chen, your sister has been calling the main reception line trying to reach someone in management about venue availability. Should I have her calls forwarded to you? Not yet, Sarah. Let her exhaust her other options first. Very good. Also, the caterer for the Morrison wedding called to confirm the cancellation. Should I have them blacklist that event as well? Yes, and please make sure the florist and photographer receive the same instructions. Sarah nodded and left me alone with my thoughts. Through my window, I could see the early afternoon sun reflecting off the windows of buildings I owned throughout the city. My empire had grown far beyond what anyone in my family suspected, built carefully and quietly while they dismissed me as an underachieving bookstore employee. My phone rang again. Isabella, I need you to be completely honest with me, Charlotte said without preamble. When you said you might have connections in the venue business, what exactly did you mean? Why do you ask? Because I just called 8 different venues and every single one of them said they were fully booked. But then I mentioned your name to the manager at the Riverside Garden, and he said he'd need to check with his senior management about potential availability. That's interesting. Isabella, do you know someone in the wedding venue industry? Someone with real influence? I leaned back in my chair and smiled. Charlotte, What would you say if I told you that I could get you a venue for December 15th? I'd say you're my hero and I'll owe you forever. Even if it meant admitting you were wrong about my financial situation? What do you mean? I mean, what if the reason I can help you isn't because I have connections but because I have resources? There was a long pause. Isabella, what exactly are you saying? I'm saying that maybe you shouldn't have made assumptions about my ability to afford your wedding. That's impossible. Isabella, I know what you make, I know where you live. You know what I want you to know, Charlotte? You've never actually asked about my financial situation. You just assumed based on appearances. Okay, fine. Let's say hypothetically that you have more money than I thought. How much more are we talking about? I pulled up my net worth calculation on my computer screen. Enough to buy every wedding venue in Manhattan if I wanted to. Charlotte laughed, but it sounded forced. Isabella, now you're just being ridiculous. Am I? Charlotte, what would you say if I told you that I own the Ashford Manor? I'd say you're having a breakdown and I need to call Mom. I opened the property deed for Ashford Manor and took a photo of it with my phone. Check your messages. There was silence for nearly a minute before Charlotte spoke again, her voice barely a whisper. Isabella, this document shows your name as the owner of Ashford Manor. That's correct. But that's impossible. You can't afford. I mean, you work at a bookstore. I own the bookstore, Charlotte. I also own the building it's in, plus 16 other commercial properties in Brooklyn, plus 17 event venues throughout New York, plus a hospitality management company that employs over 400 people. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's documented with the city. I can send you the complete portfolio if you'd like to see it. Isabella, if this is true, if you actually own all these properties, then why do you live in that tiny apartment and drive that old car? Because I don't need expensive things to feel valuable. I built my business empire quietly without fanfare or status symbols, because the work itself was rewarding. But why didn't you tell us? Why let us think you were struggling? I stood up and walked to my window again, looking down at the city I'd invested in so heavily. Because I wanted to see who my family really was when they thought I had nothing to offer. I wanted to understand whether your love was conditional on my success. And what did you learn? I learned that you're willing to exclude me from the most important day of your life because you're embarrassed by what you think is my lack of success. The phone was quiet for a long time before Charlotte spoke again. Isabella, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. You had no idea because you never asked. You made assumptions and acted on them without ever trying to understand the truth. Can you forgive me? I can forgive you, Charlotte. But I can't forget that when you thought I was unsuccessful, you didn't want me at your wedding. What can I do to make this right? I sat back down at my desk and pulled up my venue booking system. That depends on what you want to happen next. I want my sister at my wedding. I want to make this right. And Marcus? What does he think about having your unsuccessful sister at his prestigious wedding? Marcus doesn't know about this conversation yet, but if you're telling the truth about your business success, then obviously we were wrong about everything. I scrolled through my available venues and found several options that would be perfect for Charlotte's December wedding. Charlotte, I can offer you 3 different venues for December 15th. Each one is more exclusive and expensive than Ashford Manor. You can... Oh my God, Isabella, that would be amazing. But there are conditions. Anything. Name your price. First, I want a full apology from both you and Marcus for excluding me based on false assumptions about my financial status. Done. Absolutely. Second, I want Grandma's engagement ring returned to me until you can prove that you understand its sentimental value, not just its monetary worth. I can understand that. Third, I want you to spend 1 full day working at my bookstore so you can see what my daily life is actually like before you judge it. Isabella, that seems a little extreme. Those are my conditions, Charlotte. Take them or leave them. There was another long pause. I accept your conditions. Which venues are you offering? I pulled up the details for my 3 most prestigious properties. The Metropolitan Garden has a crystal ballroom that overlooks Central Park. The Pinnacle Event Center has a rooftop terrace with panoramic city views. And the Grand Meridian Hotel has a historic ballroom that's hosted presidents and royalty. Those are all legendary venues, Isabella. How much would they cost? For family? No charge for the venue rental. You'll still need to pay for catering, flowers, and other services, but the venue itself is my wedding gift to you. No charge? Isabella, these venues must rent for tens of thousands of dollars. They do. But you're my sister, and despite everything that's happened, I want your wedding to be beautiful. I could hear Charlotte crying softly. Isabella, I don't deserve this. I've been horrible to you. You made a mistake based on incomplete information. People do that. The question is whether you'll learn from it. I will. I promise I will. Isabella, can I ask you something? What? Why did you build all this in secret? Why not share your success with the family? I looked around my office, at the awards on the walls from hospitality industry organizations, at the photos of properties I'd renovated and restored, at the architectural plans for future developments spread across my conference table. Because I wanted to build something meaningful, not something impressive. I wanted to create spaces where families could celebrate the most important moments of their lives. The success was never about proving myself to anyone. And now I've learned that my family's love was more conditional than I hoped, but less conditional than I feared. What do you mean? I mean that you excluded me when you thought I was unsuccessful, but you're including me now that you know I'm not. That tells me something important about your values. Isabella, I know I messed up. How can I prove that I love you for who you are, not what you own? I smiled, feeling some of the tension in my chest finally ease. Start by coming to Brooklyn tomorrow afternoon. I'll show you the bookstore, we'll have coffee, and you can tell me about your wedding plans. The real ones, not the status-driven ones. I'd like that. And Charlotte. Yes. Bring Marcus. If he's going to be your husband, he needs to understand that family is more important than social status. I will. Isabella, thank you. For the venue, for forgiving me for everything. You're welcome. But Charlotte. Yes. If you ever exclude me from your life again because you think I'm not successful enough, you'll find out exactly how much influence I actually have in this city. After I hung up, I sat in my office watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and orange. My phone buzzed with text messages from Charlotte, including photos of her engagement ring and promises to make everything right. Tomorrow she'd come to my bookstore and see that success doesn't always look like what people expect. She'd learn that I'd built an empire not by chasing status symbols, but by creating spaces where families could come together and celebrate love. And on December 15th, she'd get married in one of my venues, surrounded by family who finally understood that worth isn't measured by appearance, but by the love and respect we show each other. The sister who'd excluded me from her wedding because she thought I couldn't afford it would be walking down the aisle in a venue I owned, wearing a ring I'd temporarily returned to her, celebrating a love that had taught both of us something important about the difference between wealth and worth. And for the first time in months, I was genuinely excited to be her maid of honor.